Our guest today is Marc Schwartz. He has been on a journey that has put him in front of more than 50,000 people in 38 countries. Marc says influence, not power or force, is the key to creating effective and engaging multicultural approach to the next evolution of business and leadership. Today he shares his remarkable book, Power Shift, The New Rules of Engagement. Find out more and get a copy of his book at spectracom.com/book. That is spectracom.com. Hi, Marc. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you this, afternoon in our case here? How are you doing?
Good. We're on different time zones, so I'm delighted to be on with you.
Oh, and I'm delighted to have you here today on Savvy. You've written an incredible new book, Power Shift, which really talks about new rules of engagement for the workplace. A lot of millennials are working or entering the workplace, and it's changing the dynamics. I myself am a consultant. I walk into different situations, and there's a range of baby boomers, Gen Xers, and now we have the millennials entering, and a lot of them don't understand each other on how to work together efficiently. They see them, the millennials will see the baby boomers as ancient creatures and not realize that there's value in understanding all these different sects of people coming into the workplace. But you're going to help us understand all of this with your new book and some of the tips and strategies you've come up with. But share with our audience a little bit about your background. What even prompted you to write Power Shift?
Christina, thank you for asking. And, it's been a long journey, well over 35 years.
Wow.
But, I got into the workplace in the mid-'70s. And I probably shouldn't have told you that, but I'm going to go ahead and reveal. And, I was excited. I got out of college and I said, I want to go into the workplace. I want to contribute. I want to give. I want to engage. I want to make a difference. And boy, I tell you, I went into the workplace, and for the next 12 years, it was like a treasure hunt. I could not find a place that I could settle, be myself, find a good manager. And in essence, I grew up with at home where a father was, it's kind of, you got to do it my way or the highway sort of approach. And Christina, I got to tell you, I got into the workplace, and that's exactly what I drew to me. That same kind of do it my way, or you got to hit the highway, pal.
Yeah.
And, that was, I'd spend about a year and a half, maybe two at best. I'd go look for another job, and invariably I'd find the same kind of leader manager.
Wow.
And after 12 years, I just got fed up with it, to be honest. I really did.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that, Marc, because that's the whole reason I got into doing consulting, because I would walk in, and this is me right out of high school. I walked into a place that I immediately saw the structure, the systems, and the processes in the company hurting. And I don't know if it's a gift of mine, but I would walk in and see where things were broken and what you could do to fix it.
Right.
And I would tell upper management, here's what I'm seeing, and here's what I think is a good fix. And they're like, that's nice. You go work to the mailroom now. And I'm like, I'm 18.
On the head and go away, please.
Yeah, I'm like 18 years old. Who are you, little pipsqueak? You just got out of high school. That's nice. But like I can see with you, it gets really frustrating when you see constantly poor management or just processes and systems and companies falling apart, and you're sitting there going, but there's a fix. Why don't we just look at it and fix it? Why do you think this even happened in workplaces?
Christina, this is so many years of history.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a book by a gentleman, Brian, and I forgot his last name, but he wrote a book called Holacracy. And I saw him speak, and he's coming up with a really unique approach to leadership as well. And I'm happy to plug anybody, because companies can use different types and approaches to how to best treat their people. But I heard him say one time during his presentation, he said, leadership and management has not changed much since the time of the telegraph in this country.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. It's that hierarchical command and control, do it my way again, or the highway. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then you're gone. B, I'm going to basically make your role less. and or your natural tendency is to disengage once you get enough of that repression. And so it's perpetuated over the years, as we went from an agrarian society into more of a manufacturing and the Industrial Revolution, and we got, manufacturing lines, and everything got pretty stringent. The people side of this went away. Yeah. And it's perpetuated. And the beauty is there's been individual pockets, people around the world that have done new, interesting, and different things. Like a guy named Ricardo Semler 25 years ago was pushing the envelope. And I'll talk about him here in a minute. But for the most part, we've pretty much stayed the course. And now the millennials are coming along, and they are the powder keg. They're going to blow this up, whether we like it or not, because they don't have the same values. It's not that they don't have values. They're just different.
Yeah.
And welcome to them. I mean, this is part of what they're here to do. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to be moving on eventually, and either retiring and eventually leaving the planet. And so it will be them to carry it on. And what I see that's interesting is there's this really deep connection of as one group, we can work together and solve this. And I'm finding, working as a consultant, that they're not a lazy bunch. I mean, they can be some lazy folks in the group, but it's really more like, I'm just not here to follow your orders. I'm here to make a difference, and I'm not making a difference, and I'm not, going forward and seeing progress. I'm just going to leave and go somewhere else.
That's right. Yeah, they vote with their feet, Christina. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like the experience you had. And I didn't move around so much. I just got frustrated a lot until I decided to start my own business. But where do you see the workplace going? Do you see it turning more into maybe entrepreneurship where, millennials will just drop off the corporate world and start their own small businesses, and that will be the future of America?
Well, I think it's obviously a trend now anyway. Mm-hmm. And, you're seeing more and more people that are starting businesses, and we're talking about things like, personal brand and how you portray that out there. And of course, with the development of and perpetuation of the internet, I mean, literally, you can have a brand that's worldwide. Yeah. And there's more and more people that are looking for entrepreneurship as an alternative to working. And I'll tell you, the at least the studies that I've seen recently is women are the ones that are making that jump or move.
Wow.
Because, there's only so much kind of repression that somebody can take before they go, what, I can do this better on my own. And power to them, because, we might be returning more to that sort of, remember, 50 or 75 or 100 years ago, that more cottage industry approach. Well, that might be part of what we do here, and corporations may start to lose some of their power, but they'll still always be around as an influencer for sure. And, a lot of them still work. You look at good ones like Costco. They're doing great stuff. So is Netflix, Zappos, of course, Google. And, that we're learning. But there's so many companies that just are not thinking about this right now, and they're going to think about it when it's too late, and the majority of their population, their workforce, is millennials.
Yeah, it's so true. And see, on a whole, I don't think I necessarily have a problem with a hierarchy, someone that owns the company and the people that know more than me, maybe to do certain things and set up the processes for running the company. I get that. Right. But where the problem is, I find walking into a lot of businesses and companies, is that there really is poor leadership. They really have no understanding of really how to do what they want to do. And then they're just pulling the rest of the people behind them, the employees and millennials. And it's frustrating because you're seeing like, I'm grinding, you're doing like the hamster wheel every day, but you don't see any progress. So you're like, why am I here? And that's what I hear from all the employees I talk to. And most of the companies I go into, that is the number one complaint. It's like, why am I even here? I'm not respected. I'm not given, they just like work harder, work more is what management tells me, but they don't really value the work I'm putting in now.
Exactly. And, that is a short track to burnout. Mm-hmm. And again, that's a short track to probably the leader in the first place is not garnering loyalty or feeding the needs of the people that work for him or her, whoever that is. Mm-hmm. And of course, an individual, truly, we're not wired to go along those lines for very long. We'll push it, but we're not going to be that effective Instead, what we see, what we know, where studies and science is going with this is how to find the motivations, the drivers of each individual, and play to those, find out what those are, and use those not to manipulate, but use that to provide a natural motivation to an individual. And, it'd be like, Christina, if you worked with me, and I'd say, tell me what's really, really important to you about not only this job, but for you. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? How do you want to get there? How do you want to be noted? How do you want to be significant and relevant? Okay, let's put something together so you can not only do that for you, but that's going to fit in alignment with the organizational goals as well. So those two things are going to line up, but I'm not going to have to manage you, because you're here and you're driven by the natural and organic motivation that is already yours. I'm just helping uncover it and inspire it.
Ooh, I love that, Mark, because one of my all-time best bosses was really, really good at that. Because some management thinks, oh, I'll just throw more money at it. Oh, you want a raise of another $1,000? I'm like, what is that in my paycheck for the year, for heaven's sakes? It's $20 every paycheck? But they don't realize that money has been shown to be not the best factor for motivating your employees and getting them jazzed. It's really, like you said, going deeper. What's really important to you? My boss saw that what was important to me was getting my flying license, my pilot license. So he would allow me time, because we have 40 days, it was 20 days vacation, but he allowed me to break them into 2. So I'd have 40 days, 40 half days where I could go to the airport and take flying lessons.
That's phenomenal. How did he know was it a him or her?
It was a him, but he was always engaging us monthly into conversations. If we meet our quota, because I was in collections and AR, we would be taken to bowling, to pizza meals, and he was always engaging, like, what is important to you, what's exciting, he wanted to talk to you, he would come by the desk. And yeah, he would work us. He really did. He wanted us to meet the goals, but at the same time, you were rewarded, and rewarded in a way that fit you and the person.
Oh, that's amazing, because again, many managers, leaders assume that Christina and Mark and everybody on the team is motivated by that extra dollar. Yeah. And the truth is, once we have our basic needs met, then there's something more. It's, hierarchy of needs. And if that's not being addressed, and especially with millennials, because they're not driven by the same thing we boomers were or are, and, they're not going to worry so much. They want time off. They want to do stuff, right? Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Mark, one of the things I hear from the company I'm now consulting at, the millennials come to me and they say, I just want flexibility. That's the number one thing I want. This is a tech company, and I would like to just take my computer home and work from home. And management, all being baby boomers for the most part, are like, no, you're to come in the office, be here 9 to 5 in that chair. Well, actually, it's 9 to 6 now. And don't move. You better be here at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Like, yeah, and how efficient is that? They get here, they're tired, they're at the water cooler till about 10 a.m. talking. Right. If you'd let them work from home, they'd probably be on the computer earlier than 9. Right. And even if they cut out earlier, they've given you more than the 9 hours you want. But, it takes thinking beyond that little box that people have kind of got themselves stuck into.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because, there was a telecommute movement that took place 10 years ago, and I think a lot of companies tried to do that, and some of them have pulled their horns in on that and required people to come back into the office. Why, I'm not exactly sure. I've heard varying accounts of it, but the truth is, Christina, it's, if that's something that's genuinely necessary. For instance, if you have a young child at home and you can't, you just don't feel good about leaving him at daycare, whatever the situation is, then if that's a driver for you, I'm going to figure out, or I hope I'm going to try to figure out with you, how to make that happen on behalf of the organization. And again, the goals of the organization have to be in there and paramount as well. But, if I'm just dismissing it totally, then at some point you're going to rebel. You're not going to give your all. You're going to show up. And that's why we have somewhere between 70 and 75% disengagement numbers in the United States. Have you heard that figure before?
Stay tuned after these messages from our sponsor. For B2B sales and marketing to be effective, it still needs to be personalized and relevant. Sales and marketing leaders have to connect with real people, actual human beings, now more than ever. Curious how to do it? The Flip My Funnel podcast is hosted daily by entrepreneur, chief evangelist, and founder of Flip My Funnel movement, Sangram Farjay. On this show, you'll find a mix of interviews with B2B sales and marketing leaders dedicated to helping you become the master of your craft. Check out and listen to Flip My Funnel today at flipmyfunnel.com/podcast.
You might be at your desk. Are you working?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, this is so interesting. Just 2 weeks ago, one of the places I work at, an employee came over to me and said, I don't know if you've heard from management, but all people who are working from home are being called back in and they must come in. And she said, I was hired with the contingency that I have a kid at home. I'm 2-hour drive that I could get 3 days at home. And that's why I took the job.
Right.
And now they're demanding that I change. And I'm like, I don't think I can, because it'll be too costly for me to come in 2 hours, have the babysitter 2 extra hours. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I said, well, you do what you have to do. I understand. I'm trying to work with management here, because that's the one thing. I don't know if you've felt this working with businesses. They kind of want you to make the changes, the upper management, but they don't want to change the way they're doing things. Have you kind of found that in your level?
Oh, that's been a frustration for 35 years that I've been a consultant, and I've literally traveled to 38 countries and talked to 50,000 people. And you know what? The biggest thing that I end up seeing is that management says, go fix them. We're okay. Don't worry about us. When in fact, we'll still do those kinds of trainings or interventions. And yet the point still is that the people at the top also need to up their skills. They need to up their capabilities and competencies, because if they were not born to be a natural leader, which I'll talk about that in a minute, there is no such thing as a natural born leader. That is a learned process. And if they haven't learned how to adapt and go to what we call the assertive level, as opposed to the passive or aggressive, or that middle ground, which is not so good, passive aggressive, that's where most managers, leaders operate, in that realm. And that's not a good place to operate from. What we urge them to do is go get additional skills yourself. Don't let your people be the only ones that are on a fast track to skill attainment.
Yeah. And what is your hope when you wrote the Power Shift book? What was your hope that people would pick it up? Who do you want to pick it up? And what is the message you're conveying in your book?
Christina, the message purely and simply is what has served us in the past is not going to serve us any longer. It's going to change whether we want it to or not. And we can hold on like a man on a life raft to the last very minute. But the point here is it's going to change. And the millennials are driving that. So the book is really pointed at two different places. Number one is upper management leadership of any and all organizations. Because again, if they're not the progressive thinkers, if they've been operating the old way, then they're going to continue to get the results. Because here's the deal. If 70% of the population is showing up and not giving their all or their best every day, what are most organizations in this country losing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a phenomenal figure. And it's even worse international. It's like only 13% engagement, Christina. So it's like, okay, we got to do something here. I don't know how much more, if we were taking money out of your capital accounts and we were putting it in our pockets every day to the tune of that would match how much that disengagement is costing us, people would be astounded. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's sort of like the frog in hot water. It's slow. It's not really identifiable or have a metric that can measure that. So we don't think about it. But it's huge.
Wow. That is really, really tremendous that you just mentioned that, because when I go to places, I do see this disengagement. I think the cell phones don't help, because then people can quickly pick it up and become more disengaged. And this is just not employees. This is management, higher management, officers. Now, how do the officers, managers even begin to realize they're not good leaders? Because I think if you ask most people, they think they're pretty amazing. When I talk to management, they think, well, there's nothing we need to do. Like you said, we're all pretty amazing here. Just work on our people.
Right. Well,
how do they begin to get it?
how do they start to get an awareness? Number one, first and foremost, is if an organization has high turnover, obviously, if they see if revenue is headed in the wrong direction, if they're not able to sustain market share. I mean, there's 100 different metrics here that could be an indication, but I'll tell you what, when they do an employee satisfaction survey and it comes back, we did one recently with a very large gaming center, and they had about 65 to 70% of the people that responded said they would leave within 2 to 3 weeks if another good, reasonable, and similar offer came through. That is a dangerous a metric. That's a dangerous mental attitude. 60 to 70% of your workforce would leave if somebody came along and made them an offer for an extra couple of dollars or said, I'll treat you better. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when you start seeing through satisfaction surveys, and we go in, we do something called pulse point. We'll take a snapshot of the organization, see what level they're at. And it's not just happiness. There's several other metric points that we identify. But point is, you can pretty much tell. But the biggest thing that has to happen with almost any management team is they've got to be aware. They've got to be willing to open those blinders up and go, you know what? I think we've been operating in a 200-year-old strategy, and I might have to make some personal changes. We as a team might have to make some changes for this to get better, because we're losing here, gang. And by the way, if they're not now, in the next 3 to 5 years, when millennials become the dominant part of the workforce, you're going to see it.
Wow. Yeah. Because they're going to be like, this is not the way we're going to do things. I see the structure changing where it'll be less about money and more about quality of life.
Right.
Which I think, it's funny. I talk to even baby boomers or Gen Xers, and they want a better quality of life. Right. But they think if they have more money in the bank, then automatically they'll have better quality of life. And I think you might know by now too, that it doesn't equal the better quality of life. That you can get the more money, but now you have to do something to get that better quality of life. Build your spirituality, the other parts of your life, your family, your friends, all of that. So that's so important. But I think it's important that you mentioned the willing to acknowledge the problem at upper management. What I've gotten going into places, they said, things aren't working. You need us to change what we're doing here. Here's some more money.
Right.
I think if we throw more money at the problem, get us a better CFO, maybe one that costs $100,000 more, that will fix it. I'm thinking, no, it's not the money. A guy that costs more money doesn't mean it's going to equal better results.
No, those are not correlatable. No. And the truth is, there's so many people. I mean, there's a lot of open jobs in this country right now. And I think for the people that might be listening, your demographic of people that are business owners, number one, how do you attract those people? Right? So point is here, people know about your company, or if they don't, they can find out pretty easily. And you go to Glassdoor and you can see on exit interviews, there's people that are telling about, well, here's what I experienced with this company. Well, listen, if I'm reading that and I'm pretty sensitive, whether I'm a boomer, Gen Xer, or millennial, it doesn't matter. But if I don't want to be treated like that, and I want to be part of the team, and I want to be engaged, and I want to be respected, and I'm seeing that most of the people are exiting out the back door with, complaints and issues, etc. I'm not even going to go to that company. Why would I?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned Glassdoor. I just found out about them last week, actually, and I was amazed. The company I was looking into had the worst reviews from employees, and it was great because when I talk to them one-on-one, they'll put on their good face because they're like, "You're going to report back to management. I don't want to get fired yet. I haven't found a new job." So they'll tell me sometimes good stuff. Oh yeah, it's great working here. Yeah. But meanwhile, I see they're disengaged. They don't have a sense of loyalty. But then you go to Glassdoor and you see that these employees are saying something very different than what they're saying to me or management in their face.
Right.
So I love that this service exists, this online Glassdoor, where you can report, hey, this is not a great company, here's why. And it keeps companies accountable. Now, This is what people are saying, what can we do to change our image?
Yeah, it's a great place to get some feedback. If a company's smart, they'll look at that and they'll monitor that and they'll make the adjustments and changes. But if they're not, they'll just ignore it and they'll keep going business as usual. And those are the ones that get in trouble.
Yeah.
And, okay, until the pain, and I've talked about it in the book as well, the two greatest reasons for change is either pain or pleasure. Well, most of the time, it's the great level of pain that's going to be the master driver here in most cases. So until pain gets so great, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing because it's worked. Well, we all know that change is a necessary component of everyday business, life, whatever it is. So it's going to have to happen. And, one of the things it's interesting in the book, we liken a company to have you ever seen those 8-man scull rowing boats with and they've got a coxswain in the front who's, talking about the cadence and they're keeping on a direction. We liken an organization to the same thing, a boat like that. And if you think about it, Christina, in an average boat that looks like an organization with disengagement the way it is, you've got about 4 people who are actually not even rowing.
Oh, yes.
Then you've got one who's actually sabotaging and rowing backwards.
Oh!
And then you've got 3 or 4 over here that are trying to do their best to row forward, keep it going, maximize, optimize, and yet at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 people are not doing their job. Can you imagine doing that day after day, month after month, and year after year?
Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why people leave.
Yeah, but there is help on the line for both employees and for businesses that are smart and want to look in and say, hey, what can we do to fix this, to grow even more and see where the problems are? Not because, we're perfect, because all of us are not perfect. If we think we're perfect, there's always things we can fix in our business and as employees as well. So where can they get your book today?
Christina, the Power Shift book is available. And right now we're doing a limited offering for free. If you'll go to www.spectracom.com/book. And Spectracom is spelled SPECTRACOMM.com/book. You can get the Power Shift book. And if you'd like us to come in, talk to your organization, no charge, no cost, we'll do that. And not only that, but we will actually go in and do something called a pulse point, which I mentioned to you earlier, which is where we're going to start taking a snapshot of the organization to see just how healthy and how good the organization overall is. So spectracom.com/book.
That is fabulous. Well, I have to thank you again, Marc. This has been so enlightening. I really hope it gets everyone thinking about wherever they're at, whether an employee, a business owner, how we can all improve the workplace. And again, I thank you, Marc, for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
My pleasure, Christina. Thanks for having me.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@SavvyBusinessRadio.com.